Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's the Friday show, kids. Gary, how are you?
Doing good. Let's start with audio cuts.
All right.
All right. Here's this.
It helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad, men can never become women, police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, spot on.
All right. Now let's head to this one, okay?
All right.
Brett Baer and J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
But I want to start with the breaking news.
Yeah.
Why was Mike Waltz let go?
So he wasn't let go. He is being made ambassador to the United Nations, which, of course, is a Senate-confirmed position. I think you can make a good argument that it's a promotion.
Well, I don't know about that, Vice President Vance. Look.
Nobody buys that. No one.
Nah. Because, if you're going to do that approach, then you announce that, in fact, ahead of all the breaking news every source had that he was out before it was announced he was going to the UN. Well, you get ahead. You know that at the White House. They knew that it was going to come out. You get ahead of that by announcing yesterday that he's going to become the next UN ambassador.
Yeah, it was
first.
Come on, JD.
Yeah.
Don't verify what Dad said.
Yeah. Well, the keywords there are you could make a good argument
that it's a promotion.
You could make a good argument. All right. Picture Eric at home. All right. My counterpart in this negotiation is my lovely wife of 3.5 decades. Here's the deal. Honey, you could make a good argument that All right. Now, does it sound like I'm making a winning argument? No, it does not. It absolutely does not. And look, we think that on many fronts, J.D. Vance has been crushing it. He's been doing a great job. That wasn't one of those fronts.
well, nobody. I mean,
sorry.
I didn't see any discussion from any Trump supporter, any Trump internet supporter.
No.
Any influencer. No, everyone was discussing, was it Signalgate or was it the fact that he's too much of a hawk? That was really what it got. Those are the two things that you saw.
Right.
The two possibilities. I thought actually the second one was interesting because and there's the talk that it's the Tucker Carlson J.D. Vance group of people that don't want to be as hawkish as Waltz was. But if you look at Trump, as we have said, what you've seen with Trump over the last, over the first 102 days, and you saw it even when he was president the first time, is this accusation that because he brought Trump in and because he has the support of Tucker Carlson, whatever, that's the verification that he's more of an isolationist.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
No.
You and I have said that for the longest time. We haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And so I would look at that and say, I don't think that that's the reason.
No.
I don't believe that that's the reason. Now, there's the other thing is that he was just completely disorganized. There was the other one, that other argument being thrown out there, that it was a combination of everything.
Sure. Yeah.
But when J.D. Vance said it was a promotion,
well,
when I saw that, I was drinking coffee yesterday.
Yeah.
I almost burnt myself.
We've said over the years that the National Security Advisor is closer to the president than, with all due respect, Mr. Vance, the vice president. It is the inner circle. Your NSA is the person that you're on national defense. That is key. And in a move like this, the point is, well, you can find a number of people that fit the role or might be able to serve as UN ambassador for you. National security advisor is a key role. And having Marco Rubio basically for, forever how long it's going to take to find a national security advisor fill in is also indication this was not a planned move. No. It has to be the fallout from everything that happened, including Waltz's response to everything that happened with that issue with that Atlantic reporter. And probably the reports that he was disorganized and everything else, like you said, a bit of all the above. But you can't screw something like that up. But more importantly, his response to all of that was really weak. We said it then.
Let me throw something out. And again, this is not, by asking this question, it is not a statement. But Trump and Goldberg became buddies last week when Goldberg visited the White House. Did he tell Trump something where Trump said, okay, Waltz has to go because of...
Maybe.
I'm just throwing that out. Or was it, because this was the other one, it actually is Signalgate, but he didn't want to do it then. Trump didn't want to do it then. He was going to hold on, to him. But the other thought process was, if Waltz goes, and this is coming from conservative circles, if Waltz goes, why is Hegseth still there?
Well, that's it. Because if you're doing this in lieu of getting rid of having Hegseth step down, that's not going to work. Right. That's only going to draw more attention to Hegseth.
Because the thing that I think was the most damaging, because really it was no harm, no foul. Nothing.
Right. The mission was not compromised.
Right. But with Hegseth out there saying that nothing was classified.
Right.
That nothing said was classified.
Mm-hmm.
That was much bigger BS than J.D. Vance ever saying that. Well, it could have been a.
You can make the argument.
It was a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows. Anybody who knows anything about intelligence knows that what Hegseth said was absolutely false. Because when the United States is involved in an attack, and anything that is generated from that is assumed to be classified.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone that knows anything about intelligence knows that's the case. So for Hegseth to say that multiple times, to me, if I'm president, that's a fireable offense.
You could have maybe gotten away with just saying the mission wasn't compromised, blah, 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 and then you just walk away from it. But they still have a major problem here.
And the reason I say that, and by the way, even though with Hegseth, it was like, okay, could you have found somebody better? Still, his passion to get rid of DEI, which is critical in the military to get rid of that. You cannot do that. You cannot play identity politics. And he seems to me to be really focused on that. But when he said that nothing was classified, the problem with that is, as defense secretary, if I'm president, I'm like, are you saying that as an excuse, or do you really believe that? Because if you really believe that, you need to resign right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you really believe that information that comes out before an attack, while the attack is going, and immediately after the attack is not classified, then you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot trust you with the nation's top secrets.
Right.
And there's been when that argument has been made by a number of people in the media, there's been no response from the White House from that at all.
No,
they just ignore that because you cannot make that argument that it wasn't classified, because it was.
Right. It's how it all works.
And so you look at it, and that was another question that was being asked yesterday. If Waltz is gone, why is Hegseth still there?
Right.
If it was about Signalgate, if it wasn't about, I keep wanting to say Snapchat. I don't know why. But if it wasn't about Signalgate, and I don't believe it was about the fact that he's too hawkish, I don't buy that argument. And I don't necessarily buy that it was from Signalgate. Is it in general he just wasn't good because that was the number of reports out there that from day one he was just not a good manager. He didn't get along with other department heads. That it could be more personality than anything else of his foreign policy views. And I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I don't. We're not insiders, and everybody's making a guess as to why the president did it. But the fact that J.D. Vance said it was a promotion, nobody bought that one. No one.
No.
It's like, stop it.
No, again, if you're going to try and make that argument or try and make it look like that, I still think it's a weak approach because everybody knows at the end of the day what this actually is. For whatever reason, Mike Waltz is out. But if you were going to try and if that was your goal, then you announced that ahead of the media breaking the news all day. The media was breaking the news that he was out all day before they announced he was UN ambassador.
Well, the other thing is,
or going to,
if this was a promotion that was well planned in advance, Mike Waltz would not have been doing an interview an hour before he was
exactly right. Because that's so. What does that tell you? That the UN assignment seems like a response to what the fallout may have been, and what they worried about, as you and I were saying during the pre-show meeting.
Or it might have been, or could have been a thought in Trump's head that, look, he gave up a seat in Congress, 100 days, didn't work out, but we'll give him a.
We'll keep his back from getting too itchy by sending him to the UN to go blah 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 blah.
We'll send him. He really failed us. We need to send him to hell. Where is that?
No, that's
UN ambassador. Send him to the UN.
Blah blah blah. Where's a place where he could talk endlessly into a void? UN ambassador. Okay. All right. I was going to say Siberia ambassador, but okay.
No, just a couple of cities away.
Yeah, it's right down the block from Siberia. It's not that far.
But it's a couple of cities from Washington. Send them to the UN. And
my greater concern is.
By the way, I'm kidding on that one. I'm having
my greater concern is. I'm not sure I am. To be clear, my greater concern is that it makes the president look like he's scrambling. And he doesn't need to look like that.
The way it came out, that's a great point.
And
I'll say I didn't. That didn't hit me till you just said that right now.
Mike Waltz, okay, yes or no? I mean, it's the president needs somebody as national security advisor that can really serve in that role and that won't jump out and go write a book instantly. That's another reason he might be going to the UN to delay the book. But it's you. When you have because that's the appearance. He's having to scramble. The story was out for hours before they, no. He's just going to the UN. That doesn't work. Again, on both fronts, it looks like you have trouble in that area with National Security Advisor. I have great confidence in Marco Rubio, but he's a bit busy over at the State Department.
Well, the interesting thing is that because the one thing that, he's out because he was too much of a hawk, well, then you wouldn't even temporarily put Marco Rubio in.
Exactly. Right.
And that would be interesting to see, that infighting because, when they talked about hitting the Houthis, it was J.D. Vance that was against it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so there may be that tension and J.D. Vance said, no, it's, and it's a great point. Everybody has differing opinions. The president makes his decision, but he gets input from everybody.
And that's okay.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
That's okay.
Right. I mean, I've even said that about, that as much as I think that Bolton, I agree with you, the way that he went in the first administration and did what he did, and then, immediately writing a book on it.
Yeah.
To me, it made me, just like it did you, suspicious as to his motivations to become part of that White House. But I've always thought that his opinion that you don't trust anybody and you've got to be prepared for war all the time is not how I want the United States to operate but I do believe that opinion is an opinion that I would want, that you've got to be, you've got to look at somebody like Iran, or you've got to understand, the problems with China and Russia. Mm-hmm. And it seems like for the most part, because what Trump said yesterday on the mineral thing was really good.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Really, really good. And it seems like a lot of conservative outlets said, well, they've got skin in the game. And the president said, we're going to have our people there. It's going to, well, I'll play the audio coming up here in a little bit.
Okay.
But that was, that was really good. But putting Marco Rubio in there does not at all make the president or the image of the president less hawkish.
Right. Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Right.
So we got a great show ahead.
We do.
It's a Friday show, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hey there, Hope Savara here with Mother Trucker Yoga, and this is your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Neck strain can really be a pain, especially after long hours behind the wheel. Did you know neck pain affects nearly 70% of drivers at some point in their career? So let's loosen things up. Sit tall and tip your head to your right shoulder. Now pull your left shoulder down gently and hold for 10 seconds. Switch sides, left ear to left shoulder, right shoulder pulls down and hold for 10. Now roll your shoulders 5 big circles forward and 5 back. Open your mouth wide and stretch your jaw. Hold for 10. Close and repeat that 2 more times. Finally, take a deep breath in through your nose, pause, and exhale through your mouth. There you go. Small, simple changes lead to big results so that you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more info.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, here's the president with the mineral deal yesterday. Here we go.
Where we can start digging and doing what we have to do. It's also good for them because you'll have an American presence at the site, Chris. And the American presence will, I think, keep a lot of bad actors out of the country, or certainly out of the area where we're doing the digging. So
there you go.
Mm-hmm. That's the idea. That's the idea. No, we're not going to war. We're just doing a little digging over here. Putin. Vlad.
That's so.
Again, it's a great approach. It ultimately, if it works out as intended, will benefit all parties. And then at some point, Vlad, Putin has to make a decision. What his game is going to be. He's having trouble, and we've known this from pretty much since the beginning on the Ukraine front, that in his military, the morale is lower than low. It's non-existent. And so then what do you do from there?
The one thing that really isn't talked about, isn't reported about a lot, and you and I have talked about this since the very beginning, what is going on inside the Kremlin.
Yeah.
This war has been going on for a long time.
Right.
Probably everybody in the country knows somebody who is a casualty,
yeah,
either dead or injured.
And two major leaders of his military assassinated in recent months.
Right. And again, we don't know what Trump knows from the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea what's going on internally there.
Right.
And that's a very, I think, important variable to know.
Yeah.
Before you make the absolute decision, as a lot of people do with, on Trump and foreign policy. Well, he's going to do that. Well, I don't know if he's going to do that.
Right.
Well, he said this. Well, I'm looking at his behavior.
Right.
And his behavior, since really taking out Soleimani, has been pretty consistent with what I believe needs to be done.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, Stephen Miller was at the podium yesterday, the presidential advisor, Stephen Miller. Let's play a little bit of that audio.
Okay.
Just so you know, and we said this yesterday because it's been happening for the last couple of weeks. By the time we get to Thursday's show, we're so loaded up with audio that we haven't played,
right.
But we spend the next 2 days trying to clear the desk. And it's like, well, we got to play this audio. We got to play this. We got to play this. So here's more. This is Stephen Miller yesterday.
It is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist. Well, no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You know, you talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained de Aragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of Train de Aragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal, judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her. They sexually assaulted her. They tortured her. They stripped her. They murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Train de Aragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered.
So there you go. You know, it's really amazing that you see it. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, even Van Hollen saying, you know, we need to move on from this. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the message. You know, we need to stop going to El Salvador on it because the evidence keeps piling up.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
I mean, you got another order now that the wife put out that came out here yesterday. The video,
right?
The video of was it Tennessee police, right? Tennessee State Police?
Was it
Tennessee?
Tennessee?
I forgot, but it was this.
Okay. I was thinking Maryland, but only because they keep calling him Maryland Man. So, yeah.
Right? You have a solid point.
Yeah.
But the video of the state police, when they pulled him over, and, you know, you can tell that the state police were concerned about human trafficking at that particular point, that was human trafficking that was going on.
Right.
So, but these stories are coming out every single day, and it's just like, wow, you cannot win this. And the longer that they stick on it.
Yeah, it was Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was. Good. My mind isn't gone.
Yeah. What the hell's going on with me?
All right. Well, you know, you're
well.
old.
It's all of the notifications said the body cam of Maryland Man.
So no, that's a good assumption.
By the way, doesn't that sound like a tourist superhero?
Maryland Man.
Maryland Man.
The Democrats.
Come visit the great state of Maryland.
The
Join
Democrats.
Maryland Man.
After our Batman thing yesterday, which, by the way, when I when I was looking at some of the notifications that we got yesterday, and I'm like, when I saw it yesterday, I said, "What the hell are we talking about?" But we got one of our listeners. That's too funny. Trump is Batman, Vance is Robin, AOC Batgirl, Schumer the Joker, Pritzker the Penguin. Because you came out with we were talking about Pritzker, and it's like, what are you looking for, some type of superhero? And you went, well, he's actually like from Batman the Penguin.
Well, and then
Schumer. Then we just went on, and Rubio was Commissioner Gordon, and apparently our listener couldn't handle it. It was just laughing so hard.
Right.
And I went, when I saw it yesterday, I went, just how in the hell did we ever get to that point of talking Batman?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm not sure who Two-Face would be, but I have some ideas.
And I don't know how we ever got to that yesterday, and we did it sober.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not sober today, because it's the Friday show.
Right. John Bolton might be Two-Face. I'm just saying.
No, because he's not in the he's not really.
I know, but he's still a villain. He's got that weird smile on his face too.
No,
only when he's selling books.
No, to take the Schumer. Schumer, no, we already have Schumer. Schumer's
the Joker. Yeah, that's.
And I was just saying Schumer because he's the one that was like, Trump's polling is down. We played this yesterday. Trump's polling's down.
Yeah.
Trump's polling is horrible. Questions, Mr. Schumer. You have the lowest polling at 17%.
Polls come and go.
Polls don't matter. They don't.
Why would you even bring up polls? Nobody brings up polls anymore. Who's talking polls?
And just so you know, since the whole polls talk comes up all the time, look, we've done this long enough where we realize people believe the good polls and don't the bad.
Yeah.
Now the problem is taking one poll and coming to an absolute conclusion. Not just an absolute conclusion, but an absolute permanent conclusion as to what that one poll means.
Yeah.
And that's why we've never done that. We look at all of the polls, including the ones that are viewed as more liberal and conservative. And if we see a pattern in all of them, then that's something that I believe any politician should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was like, I thought Trump. I don't know. I like Vance as Batman. I don't know why, but I just saw him in the mask.
You mean Robin?
What I say? Yeah, Trump is Robin. Excuse me, Vance is Robin. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I just saw him in the mask and went, okay, that would work out pretty good.
Yeah, we'll have to update the uniform thing. I don't need to see Vance in tights.
And then, man, the response yesterday.
Yeah.
I've got to find Levitt saying, and we encourage, basically, we hope and encourage that Kamala Harris gives as many speeches as possible.
Yes.
I mean,
please keep talking.
But I mean, the combination of both of them yesterday, even Democrats were like saying, she just.
Well, this is exactly what I said. What I said when I woke up and I watched a couple of minutes of the video. I thought I'm just going to put, I don't really have any, nonpartisan. I put my nonpartisan glasses on. I don't own any. But I thought to myself, how would the rank and file Democrat look at this, right? Because, again, she's at the top of the poll for 2028. We know it's a long ways away, but really it isn't. And right now, she's there. So what do you look at? Well, all right. They live in the bubble. On the left, they live in the bubble of today. They live in a lot of bubbles, but the bubble of today is critical here because they kind of forget how it all went. and I don't mean how it ended, but I mean the speeches and the interviews. I think the executive producer from 60 Minutes quit because he's too exhausted from editing the Kamala Harris interview. But
they didn't have AI to do it.
Exactly. We had to use razors. We were cutting actual tape.
Oh, my God.
It was.
Which, by the way, you and I both did.
We both did.
We both did, yes.
It wasn't pretty, but we did it.
Yes, we did it.
Yeah. The entire, when you live in the bubble of today and then you, in your mind, as the new administration's coming in, a couple of months in, it's like, Oh, yeah, no, we need Kamala. No, we need Kamala. Totally shutting out how it all was going and what her underperformance was really like. And then she speaks again. And Democrats were reacting exactly how I thought they were going to. Oh, yeah, we forgot about this part. That she's horrible at speaking publicly.
What I liked was a debate going on who was worse, Waltz for his comments or Kamala Harris. That was that could have been a drinking game yesterday.
Well, as the permission structure for Red Eye Radio, I will tell you this.
Everything goes through Eric. Eric is the permission structure.
Wait, I'm the one that convinces ordinary people to like the show.
Well, you give
it's okay.
No, you give everybody permission to deal with me.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Just keep listening. Trust me, it'll get better. But
Gary will get better.
It was the problem, that again they don't. There's so many problems. It's not the problem. It's one of the many problems they have on the left. Well, specifically in the Democratic Party, aside from David Hogue.
And I've heard Hogg more now.
Have you?
I've heard Hogg a lot more.
I said Hogg at the beginning.
I like Hogg better.
And everybody was correct. How dare you call him Hogg? I want to call him Hogg.
I remember that.
It's spelled Hogg.
Yeah.
I grew up in the South.
Yes.
How is it not Hogg? We want it to be Hogg. We're okay with Hogg, boss.
And the only show that I watched was the Dukes of Hazzard.
That's right.
And it was pronounced Hogg.
Right.
Boss Hogg.
Right.
In fact, I thought of that yesterday when I saw the story that Bruce Springsteen doesn't like his nickname Boss.
Yeah, the boss. Hey, who made you the boss? Oh, yeah, it's your band. Never mind. Sorry.
But yeah, so I guess it's Hogg then. And I'm okay with that.
If we're going with Hogg, I'm all in.
Yeah, if we have mispronounced his name because we were criticized earlier for that.
Yeah,
no, it's Hogue.
Quit saying
not Hogg.
It's Hogue.
And now I hear Democrats saying Hogg.
Yeah. Anyway, pig face.
Pig vomit.
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, aside from Hogg, the problem that they have is the total lack of, and I want to speak on this, self-awareness. I just screwed my own point. Dang it. I hate when that happens.
Well, but having his name Hogg instead of Hogue, the Democrats went hog wild yesterday.
We've got
it's much easier to use Hogg than Hogue.
Right, exactly. Can't put lipstick on this hog. There's so many things we can do.
Hogue, the only thing you could throw out of that is maybe hoagie, but that doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. Hog is like, okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've got that straightened out now.
Yeah.
Hey, it is a Friday show. It really is. It may just be a throwaway show, folks.
Well, it's more of like a purge show where we have to purge a lot of audio. We got to get it out, before the weekend.
It's
and
the
whole
Friday
thing.
purge.
Because if we don't do this, so many things happen over the weekend by the time we come in on Sunday. Even the stuff that happens on Friday after we leave here doesn't always make the mix on Sunday night because of everything that happens on Sunday night.
Eric sometimes has reminded me, or I'll look at him and I'll say, I go, well, here's a bunch of stuff that I have audio, and Eric will say, what about that? And I went, well, didn't we cover that? He goes, no, that was Friday. I went, oh, it seems like that was 3 weeks ago.
It does, yeah, by the time we get back from the weekend,
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here, as always. We appreciate it.
We do.
I just saw this headline. Just saw the headline. Luigi the Musical to debut in San Francisco this summer.
Yeah, that's insane.
We'll get to that insanity and just a ton more of audio cuts from yesterday.
Yeah.
I need a couple days to rest after this
I know,
week.
right? Yeah, going to have to take a pause.
Yes.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We are Red Eye Radio. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. The Democrats, my God, if they continue on the Garcia thing.
Yeah, they really want to get out of it. We suspected at some point they would.
I mean, here is here are the troopers talking to each other. Okay, after they've inspected the car. Right, here's the troopers. All right, here we go.
You know what you got, right? You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money. Is what he's doing. But sometimes they commingle dope.
No. But
He,
did you see how squatted back in there?
there's 8 people in there.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. They put an extra row of seats in there.
Yeah. So he's getting paid to haul these people, probably to Maryland, I would say, if I had my
He
guess.
said that.
There you go. And they continue to talk about. He said, they had no luggage. There's no luggage.
Right.
In the car, and he says, and then he, in another video, you heard the trooper saying, I bet you if you pull them out, basically what you'll find is toothpaste and a toothbrush, and that's it.
Right.
And he said, we've got, he goes, but there's no luggage.
Right.
They added seats in the car, apparently, where he said, because there's 8 people in the car, and he goes, he's hauling these people for money, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So what the reports are is they called the FBI, and the FBI said, let him go. Biden's FBI.
Right.
They called ICE. ICE never showed up.
Right.
When ICE never showed up,
right. Because
they
with
let him go. Right.
with the Biden administration, they were tying the hands of ICE and Border Patrol agents. We know that.
And then you get to the new order, and this is the order from Garcia that he was another one where he was hitting his wife, domestic violence. This is his wife pleading with the judge for a temporary protection order for her husband back in 2020. All right, it's audio here. Here we go.
Came to fill out a protective order. I think it was in December, but I didn't show up to the court because his family washed my brain, telling me that his dad was sick and not to do it. So I didn't do anything. But after that, it was I would call the police. I have a lot of police reports, and I kept trying to get to the door basement to try to open the door, and then he pushed me. So then when I was able to go outside to get a phone, I called 911 from a disconnected phone. Now they took a long time to get to the house. It was probably 20-30 minutes. So I saw a neighbor walking his dog, and I opened the door and I was like, help. And then when he heard me, he grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me. And then the neighbor, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, He slapped me 3 times, and then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
That's just some of it. Apparently, that audio coming out yesterday, and it's just like just shaking your head because with the Garcia thing, nothing has ever gone in the Democrats' direction that they wished it to go.
No, it keeps going in the opposite direction for them because the truth is hard to really reshape in this case. They try. He's a Maryland man. He's a Maryland dad.
Like a superhero.
Right. Exactly. Maryland man. It is really it's disgusting to watch because the left over and over again ignores the victims, including one of them you just heard, his wife. They ignore the victims over and over again. And in human trafficking, there's plenty of victims. They ignore them. They ignore the families that are suffering the loss after someone who comes here illegally kills their family member. Ignored.
Yeah.
Gang member goes to El Salvador. Let's get on a plane and go have some champagne with them. This is who the left is. It's absolutely disgusting. What's next? Fentanyl's not such a bad drug after all. I mean, you should take it in moderation.
Well, since we're talking about illegal immigrants, and we haven't played a cut from my congressperson all week.
All right. I was waiting on it. Been a long time. Been a while. Did you write her about the ducks? You should write her about the
ducks. Well, actually, because I do live right next to Army Corps of Engineer property, which surrounds the entire lake, because it's an Army. I live in an Army. Well, everything's an Army Corps of Engineer lake in Texas.
Well,
except Cattle Lake, I believe.
Yeah, they cover a lot of it. Yeah.
But you can't, for example, nobody can build like a house right on the lake. Like you can't. You don't have
on your lake.
On my lake. You can't have. You can't. You can build maybe 500 feet away, but that 500 feet, whether you call it a federal abatement or whatever, is all Army Corps of Engineer stuff. So, I've read that there's a rule where if ducks lay eggs on your property, by federal law, you can't kill them.
Right.
You can't get rid of them. So I had a duck lay on my property, and so it all got, the one chickie was left, and they all disappeared the other day. And then I showed you what I put in to keep the ducks out. But it is sort of a federal issue, so maybe I could call her office and see if she could help me with my duck problem.
Well, ironically, you put in a picture of Jasmine Crockett to keep the ducks away. So,
did you? I showed you the little flotation thing I have.
Yeah, it's an alligator head.
It's an alligator
It's a head.
It looks.
We have real gators in Texas, and not far from your house. Actually, there might be some in your lake, in that lake next close to your house.
It's scared me. That thing floating around because the current, moves it around. And if you're a bird coming down, I actually saw a duck come down, thought it was going to land in the pool, and then looked down and just flew right back up again.
It looks pretty realistic.
The gator, if I put it in my pond where the water is murky, I bet you the police would be called. Somebody's going to call the police because there's a gator.
Yeah.
I'm like, the wind better not, take that and, and pop it out of the pool. But I got that, and I have a electric owl now to keep the ducks away. It's an electric owl, solar. It's solar, so charges during the day, and the eyes go red at night. And there is a owl screech, but it's not a loud one.
Right. Yeah.
If it goes off, I can hear it in my bedroom, but it's not loud enough for my neighbors to hear.
Doesn't the electric owl sound like an electronic dance club from the 80s? The electric owl. Boots and pants required. Boots
You're right.
and pants and boots
it
and
does.
pants.
Yeah,
and boots
yeah.
and
The,
pants.
the electric owl.
Yeah.
It's a rage club.
Yeah.
But here is
with DJ Gary.
Hey, I was a club DJ, and I was the worst job I ever had. With the worst job, people go, it had to be cleaning toilets. No, not even close.
Yeah.
Well, then it must have been, you told that story, Gary, about working near that heat treat furnace and how you would how to outrun the flames when your machine broke. That had to be the worst.
No. That's nowhere near as scary as spinning disco.
No. Not even that. Not even the spinning disco at the Port Shark for 2 weeks, helping out a buddy of mine.
Right.
That wasn't the worst job that I had.
Right.
It was being a wedding DJ.
A
wedding DJ when I didn't own it, and I really didn't want to do it, but the guy kept begging me to do it. But this is before you could just download anything. I mean, now if somebody asks, you're wedding DJ now, if somebody asks for the song, you download it, boom, it's up. You got it, no big deal. Back then, we didn't have it. He was the owner of he had like 3 sound systems out there, and it was like, and this goes back to like 87 and 88 when I did it.
Yeah.
It was like $500. It was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. No, it was big money. Yeah.
Big money.
I have friends who did it.
And so I'd show up.
Most of them cry a lot now.
I'd show up. The check would be there. Everything would be I didn't have to do anything. He set it all up. I just showed up, did it, and went home. That's how desperate he was to do it. And so, but what he didn't do was he would meet with the family beforehand and say, "Look, we need." The family would say, "Look, these are the 20 records." It was actually still playing records at times. CDs had not fully come out, and it's like we want these 20 songs.
Yeah.
Well, he'd only get 10 of them. And I remember this mother screaming at me. I mean, there's some mother out there that, well, she might be a grandmother now, or her great grandmother, saying, that SOB Gary McNamara destroyed my daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
And you know how I know that? Because I had a couple of parents of the bride tell me, you have destroyed my daughter's wedding by not having the song. I'm not in charge of that. It didn't matter.
Yep.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
But here's Jasmine Crockett. You ready?
Right. Okay.
All right, here we go. Jasmine Crockett on illegal immigration.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like that is absolutely insane. So yes, all I got to say is y'all need to get these fools out of here. But Deborah,
did she hear herself?
I have no idea.
What if other countries were throwing people into our country?
You know, I go back to that audio that we played yesterday from that woman who was a consultant to companies telling them that may be the audio cut of the week. You know, explaining to them how they should deal with politics and the issues of the day.
Right.
Emma Jo Morse was her name, and she was on with Breitbart editor Alex Marlowe, and we'll play it coming up here during the next break. But it was just incredible. And she said, I don't think the media bias is political. She said, I believe it's personal. And she said, these are people pretty much. She goes, I think they're insane. She said, what do I mean by insane? She goes, I'm not trying to be snarky or anything.
No.
But when you're delusional, when you promote stuff that is self-evident is not true, when you continue to do it and you actually believe it and you're enraged by something that isn't true, easily fact-checked and completely delusional, you're insane.
Yeah, you are. And they don't back down. Van Hollen's backing down, trying a little bit on the Garcia thing. But politically, that's not going to work. It doesn't change how he thinks.
No. It just, they finally realized Well, how they couldn't realize from the beginning this is not a hill to die on, that's part of the delusion.
Right. And they're just looking for another path. They want to go down the same road. They just don't want to go use this path to get there.
And still, I mean, it was when Scott Jennings said it, forgot who it was the other day, he goes, you keep using the dictator thing over and over again.
Right.
You lost on that.
Right.
You keep using what the public isn't buying.
Right. And kidnapping.
Well, that was kidnapping there, yeah.
Just that's insane.
I know.
Kidnapping.
And we have played how her accent has changed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
She doesn't, before she became a congresswoman, she did not speak like that.
Right. She's trying to go viral.
Yeah. She's trying to be more hood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operator Mike Nichols is leased to Wayne Transports, pulling in their dry bulk division today after decades in business for himself. Speaking to Overdrive's Todd Dills recently, Nichols offered a word of advice to any company driver planning to make the switch to running as an owner-operator. Unless you've got access to family money or otherwise independently wealthy, he noted.
As a company driver, you need to be thinking about startup capital and down payment. And I would just say that you need to treat that like you would firewood. Save what you think you might need and then triple it, if not quadruple it. And you'll be thankful that you did.
You'll be glad you did. That is, not just given favorable loan terms with a good down payment. Inevitably with trucking, you'll get hit with a breakdown and huge repair bill, or another of those unforeseen events. You'll need that reserve cash to cover it and avoid taking on debt or going out of business. Hear more from Overdrive's 2024 Trucker of the Year contenders at overdriveonline.com/PIB.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I think we played this audio cut near the end of the show yesterday, so I want to play it here near the beginning of the show, well 90 minutes in. And this is from Breitbart, and it was from their Breitbart editor, Alex Marlow, interviewing Emma Jo Morse, who she's a consultant and works with companies about, how to get through, whatever politics is going on at the time. That's what she does. But she was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and we played this after we played the Tim Walz delusional statement that he was, what was it again? The permission, what is it?
Permission structure.
The permission structure for white men, that he was brought in as, that kind of white man that would give permission to other white men to vote for Kamala Harris. And we're just like, how delusional is this guy? But listen to this, because this is really fascinating as she talks about being at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and something that she has come to realize about the left.
I had like a total epiphany about what I think media bias is about. And I shared that with you off camera. Like, I don't think that media bias actually anymore is political. What I gleaned from that evening was that the bias is really personal, and that these people are just literally insane. That they're completely insane. I don't say that to be snarky. I don't say it as like an expression. Like, I actually think they're insane. Like, there was multiple instances over the course of the night, over the entire night, where someone was saying stuff that the whole room seemed to agree with and applaud, and it was completely divorced from reality, which is how I define insanity. Like, when somebody has a perception that's just completely detached from what's observably true. Yes. And I saw that so many times in that night, and it occurred to me, I was like, wait, like, these people are crazy. Like, that's why their content is so off, is because they're just crazy. Their egos was some stuff like I've never seen in my life. On the one hand, everybody was talking about how they are kind of like the linchpin to the entire country and that they are under attack.
That was just part of it. But yeah, I mean, I look at it, it's like we've said delusional, but what is it when you become absolutely enraged and seemingly insane in your actions because of your belief of something that is obviously not true and has no basis in fact? What do you call that?
Right.
And she went out of her way to say, look, I'm not doing this to be snarky. This isn't over-the-top rhetoric. What do you call it when people are completely divorced from reality, and there's a group of them all divorced from reality, cheering about things that are based on no truth?
Right. It's insanity.
Yeah.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. There are so many. I can't say that there's a favorite audio cut from yesterday or this week because there's just so many of them.
The Tim Walz thing is a contender.
Listen to this. This is the end of the White House press briefing today with Caroline Leavitt.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. And just to add on the Kamala Harris point, I think I speak for everyone at the White House. We encourage Kamala Harris to continue going out and speaking engagements. You'll hear from the president at 11 o'clock.
Please, we're begging you, keep talking.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow. You know, the problem is here's the thing. It's because it's so easy, and Leavitt is very smart, and she knows this. It really isn't about even disarming anything. It does have the effect of disarming anything. Well, if you can figure out anything that she said, being Kamala Harris, but it's not even that. It's just so easy because you know what the response is by everyone. You know, when it wasn't trending on social media, when it was going nowhere. By the way, did you notice that the stories about it picked up during our show? I'm not saying it's because of our show. I'm just saying they wanted to bury it in the middle of the night.
And we weren't going to let that happen.
No, exactly. And you know, I got home and I was like, man, a lot of these stories posted in the middle of the night, and there's a reason the Democrats really don't want her out there. Her name is at the top. Why? Well, you know, because they have nobody else.
Yeah.
There's nobody else. She was the last one on the ticket. So she's just lingering.
Well, and the thing is, she doesn't say anything.
No.
And not say anything. And when you started talking, this thought went into my head. And we had said this during the campaign last year. Maybe you should just be quiet for a couple of weeks. Maybe that's the best thing that Democrats could do is say nothing.
Yeah, right.
If I was a political advisor to the Democrats, I would say, do not pick a particular topic.
Right.
Just talk in generalities how Donald Trump is wrong. But don't bring up dictator, because that's going to work against you. You've got to find a way to criticize him with not, and at the same time, not communicating the message that you're nuts.
Right. Well, you know, that's the thing. You know, you're just going to have to go up to the bar and not order the exciting drink. You're going to have to order an ice water and tone it down for a while. Because they've been going so hard on their agenda items. It makes me wonder if they're really actually paying any attention to Donald Trump on a number of things. And what you do is, just as you said, you get Jeffries, you get Schumer, or maybe somebody else from the Senate, and, he's wrong. He's running this country. He's running this whatever. You just do the blah, 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 but you really don't make a fuss about it. And you know what you also don't do? You don't travel to El Salvador to have a sit-down with an MS-13 member.
And that's why I'm serious. I might say if they hired me as a political consultant,
right?
Why don't all of you say nothing for 2 weeks,
right?
And see every Democrat, tell every Democrat, no comment.
Yeah, and we'll start with Cory Booker.
Yes.
Cory, 25 hours.
Right.
Let's just do this.
Of
25
silence.
hours of silence. How about 25 hours of shut the hell up?
Well, we can't do that because silence is violence.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They can't. No, exactly what you just said.
But I really wonder if the Democrats said nothing, just nothing for a month, if their polls would go up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it is amazing to watch all of this. And then this week, this is the week where, after, you heard it for the last month, Trump's polls are going down, Trump's polls are going down, Trump's polls are going down, Trump's polls are going down. And all of a sudden, whether it was Harry Enton at CNN or whatever, a number of people came out and started saying, well, his poll numbers may be down a little bit, but he's beating you guys.
Right.
And then, was it CNN the one that came up and said, well, if Trump ran today, he'd still win. It looks like by almost the same margin,
right.
he'd still beat Kamala Harris.
Right.
And so all of this, we played the Chuck Schumer yesterday. His polls are going down. Americans are dissatisfied. His polls are going down. America's dissatisfied. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Senator Schumer, your poll numbers are only 17%, the lowest of everybody. What do you have to say about that? Well, we don't pay attention to polls.
Polls come and go.
Yeah, no big deal. It's like,
how dare you?
But
that's racist.
But at that point, it's just like, then you need to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you cannot win the argument, I guess this goes back to Dad, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right.
Think about if my father went in to as a consultant to Democrats. Make sure that when you talk, you're right 100% of the time.
Which means they'd have to shut up all the time.
Right. Well, we can't do that. Well, then shut up. And then they'd have to shut up for a month and see if their poll numbers went up.
Because if you're thoughtful in your approach, and honestly you would have to be because you want to win the debate, you want to win the argument, then you start by punching holes in what you're going to say in the first place. You punch your own holes. Where could they come at me? Schumer knew what his numbers were.
I know.
Well, here's the most stupidest thing. He then took questions. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You can say the president's poll numbers are tanking and there's a reason for that and blah, blah, blah. Thank you. And then walk away. Now, we would punch holes in it. Any critical thinker would know, Chuck, your polls are the worst. Well, the one thing you don't do is open it up to questions. Remember Biden. Tell me I'm not supposed to be taking questions.
Yeah,
so I'm going to take some questions. Yeah, what about Hunter? I'm not taking any questions. I mean,
you saw Hunter drop the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I might have forgotten.
Yeah,
There's so much. Hunter dropped the
yeah.
lawsuit against the two IRS agents.
Right.
Like we didn't know that was coming.
Of course.
There's no way he was going to win that.
Nope. Yeah, it's, but there's zero self-awareness with the collective, but also with the individuals. And here's the difference, too. People like Crockett, AOC, they're trying to go viral. They're building a brand.
I want them to go viral.
Oh, please. We'll help them.
I want everybody
we play
to
their audio so that it will help make it go viral. We'll get 2 or 3 more views of each video based on playing it on our show. These people are building a brand that goes beyond their service. That's what they want. This is about serving themselves, not their constituents, and sure as hell not this country. They're looking to serve themselves. I want to build a brand for me. I want it to go viral. Who puts out a dancing video? Grow up. At least Fetterman was only wearing a hoodie. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're all looking to go viral, hoping that it will help them later on in their career get a private sector MSNBC job or something.
AOC's already, building a social media presence. They already have it. You build it, you keep it going, and then when you're no longer in office, you've got your own podcast, you've got your own built-in audience that monetizes like crazy. That's what they're doing. This is a self-serving performance art. It's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. But again, even if it's performance art, it doesn't mean that it's effective.
No, it's not politically. It isn't.
But But what does it all come down to, though? Let's take the huge umbrella and bring it down to what matters.
Yeah.
It's because they suck on the issues, and they just can't acknowledge that.
Right.
Now I will say,
because again, they don't believe they do.
Carvel a little bit on the identity politics.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, for all the years that we've talked about how the Democrats are the institution in this country, the greatest institution that has promoted Jim Crow and has promoted slavery, and they're doing the same now with identity politics. They're judging people by groups and not individuals. We've talked about the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, the women hatred that comes from the Democratic Party. Do you know, I have never received one critical comment on it. Not one.
No.
Not one. Because they know it. Democrats know it. Democrats know it. Everyone knows. This is 2025, for God's sakes. We don't judge people by the group that we're in. We judge people as individuals.
Yep.
That's what the vast majority of us do. The ones who don't are a minority, but they represent the Democratic Party that has institutionalized racism. Who was it? I can't think of his name. Stephen A. Smith had him on. He's, let me just scan here. Here it is. It was Brandon Tatum, who is a conservative. They call him Officer Tatum. And he was on with Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith was, he was saying, he goes, blacks have been, bamboozled by Democrats. And Stephen A. Smith started talking about, what about the civil rights thing and everything? Goes, Democrats didn't do that. He really sort of embarrassed Stephen A. Smith.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith's got he's got that look where his eyes are like looking down and his lips are together. Like, oh, I didn't know this. I'll have that audio coming up because it was really fascinating. On it. But when you look at it, everything that they have done, and then doubling down on what they've doubled down on criminal illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
And everything that's going on, you look at it, and the public's got to be going, you people are absolutely nuts. You take that along with the radical transgender movement, the misogyny, the threatening and the intimidation of women who just want to play sports, trying to justify that women need to get used to men's genitals in the locker room.
Yep.
I mean, this stuff is absolutely insane, and they promote it with the passion over and over and over again. And then we played Crockett saying, well, what if countries just sent illegal immigrants over to the United States? How would we feel?
Yeah.
It's just like, do you have any self-awareness at all as to what's going on? So I understand why that Emma Jo Smith, who was on Breitbart and was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, said, look, these reporters are insane. And we call them political activists. That's why we say, look, The White House, that dinner last weekend means absolutely nothing. It means diddly. And as Sonny Crockett would say from Miami Vice, not Jasmine Crockett, it means diddly and squat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're not journalists.
No.
They don't care about the truth.
No.
They don't
Never
care. And maybe there is a little bit of insanity in them. We know there's delusion.
Mm-hmm.
But do they actually know it's wrong? It's really amazing because of all the people I meet, I've met so many people. I've met no one like Jasmine Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will admit, my neighbor who went crazy, that demanded everybody. I haven't talked to her. My other neighbor has, but she's the one that went crazy and said, last August, anybody who's voting for Trump, unfriend me right now. We'll get to that more coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, like in all my travels, and I think about it when I don't meet people like Jamie Raskin.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet lots of Democrats, especially when I go up to New York. I don't meet people like Raskin. I don't meet people like AOC. I don't meet anybody, if they're Democrats, who was like a Jasmine Crockett.
Right.
I said the one neighbor who, freaked out on Facebook and then deleted it, I don't know if she's the same way because I've never had the discussion with her. But you think about how they promote it, and you've got people that vote for them, yet the people that vote for them don't seem like anything like the people they vote for.
Right. Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Oh, made it to a Friday.
We did.
Right.
But calm down. It's only 2 a.m. we have a few minutes to get through.
I'm already in my mind. It's like, okay, what's going to happen next week? Wait, Bureau of Labor Statistics job numbers come out today, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, later this morning.
Okay. Well, that's something we'll talk about next week then.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm already, by the time we get to Friday, basically the theme, the theme for this Friday has been set. And the theme is insane audio cuts that we have from a ton of different Democrats.
Yeah.
Because they're just nuts. And just, again, when we look at it, I think the biggest thing, really, politically, this week was how, and really was led by CNN from how I saw it. Okay. And how I see it could be different than how somebody else saw it. Was that all the talk about, Trump's declining polling numbers, and then it's that CNN coming out and going, yeah, but the Democrats are worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yours keep going down.
Right. You compare the two.
And I just, and all of a sudden, we're back to by the time we got to yesterday, Democrats, you had Democrats saying, well, we don't believe it's right. We shouldn't be focusing on impeaching Trump, because AOC's talking about it. I can't think of the other, the nutcase congressman. His name just for a moment here is just out of my mind, who brought up the impeachment articles and other Democrats. Well, then it's not going to go anywhere. We need to focus on the economy. We need to focus on the economy. We need to focus on what on the economy?
Right.
Look, any Democrat listening out there, are you ever going to demand that your party talk in specifics? part of what gets the Republicans in trouble at times is they get, and Trump is they get too specific.
Yeah.
But
they give too many details.
Right.
And talk to the media for too long.
There's some of the criticism. It's not my criticism, but as part of the criticism is there's too much transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want transparency from everybody because then I can decide, even if they contradict what they said an hour before, then I can make that decision.
Yeah.
I can say, oh, okay, but I want everybody to be talking and talking in specifics. Earlier this week, we had a listener, and I had fun with the listener, that was critical and says, because, we were talking about the tariffs, and he said, well, I'm in a whatever text group or email group, whatever it was, and tariffs have only come up. You guys get in too much of the minutia of tariffs. And it was when we were talking about what the president was saying. We said, well, we only tell you what the president is saying. Well, we don't care. So you don't care what Trump is saying, or you do? Are you defending him and saying you care? And I couldn't get a straight answer. And I just was like, wow, that's just. But I think a Trump supporter that doesn't want Trump talking so much is what I got out of it. I'm a Trump supporter, but you guys keep telling me what Trump is saying every day, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't want to pay attention to it.
I don't want to pay attention.
I don't know where to go with that.
and so
it's our job to pay attention to it.
Right. That's what we do. We're we're an all around show, but we focus mostly on politics and economics. That's what we've always done on the show. And based on the long history of our show, with our trucking history, that's all. Economics has always been one of the lead things that we've always talked about.
Economics and regulation.
Yeah,
those are the two right now, the two biggest drivers in trucking. Economics and regulation.
Yeah,
they have been for a long time.
But again, and I find it the most interesting story because with Republicans, whether you agree or disagree with them, they're telling you what they want to do. There may be some that aren't, but others are.
Yeah.
For example, Chip Roy, and we'll get some of the Chip Roy comments from yesterday. What do you mean don't cut Medicaid? It's Obamacare.
Yeah, right.
Why are we expanding Obamacare? So we'll get it. But there's always ideas being thrown out. There's constantly ideas being thrown out. And when you get to any topic, the minutia or the details actually matter.
Yeah, right.
And so, but the Democrats, there's no details. And I thought it was really interesting by the time we got to Thursday. It's, no, we're not going to be focusing on impeachment. We need to be focusing on the economy. We need to be. Well, why aren't you then? Why aren't you saying, here's what we would do different?
Yeah.
Here's how we would do it. Now, the reason they don't is because we know what they would say. We need to have investment and we need to provide more welfare for people.
Our focus needs to be a comprehensive focus so that we can have a greater support for the American people.
See, there's so many topics out there.
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it a senator or Democratic congressperson that came out and said, I agree with what Trump has been doing is really good, but we need to go further now, and that's comprehensive immigration reform. Actually, there is a little bit of truth to that, though, that Trump would probably agree with.
Well, Congress is going to have to, they are going to have to do something eventually. The question is, can you get that done right now?
Yeah. Now,
politically.
Understand, because we always get flapped when we talk about this. It always reminds me sort of when we talk about this, is like when we had to tell Ron Paul supporters that Ron Paul was not against free trade.
Right.
That Ron Paul was for absolute free trade and
unmanaged free trade.
Unmanaged free trade, right. He didn't want free trade agreements. He didn't want tariffs with anybody at any time. Right. He thought if you're a company in Iowa, you should be able to deal with. And when we told that, when we would tell that and make that comment, Ron Paul supporters, because Ron Paul was against NAFTA, they assumed, they never went into the details of what Ron Paul actually believed. And they just said, well, no, he's not for free trade at all. He's against NAFTA. He goes, no.
No, he doesn't like NAFTA because it's too binding.
Right. It's managed trade.
Right.
Free trade is there are no rules.
Right.
And Ron Paul was on that. And we got Ron Paul supporters so angry at us till we told them, go
it's on his website.
We sent them, go look at the website. Here's what it say. And they were still furious at us.
Right.
It's like, don't tell me the truth.
Yep.
And we've gotten flack before when we've talked about the fact that Trump wants a lot more legal immigration into this country. And we have talked about that when the big Jim Acosta thing happened and nobody ever paid attention to it.
Right.
Because that was really one of the first times on a major stage that he made that argument, Trump did. When he corrected Acosta by saying, immigrants, goes, whoa, I'm separating illegal from legal. We're going to need a lot more legal immigrants to this country because the economy is going to boom and we need workers and we don't have the birth rate. Trump made that case. Now, we've always said him making that case, America wasn't there yet then. I don't believe they're there now because of illegal immigration. But Trump on that has been, very forward thinking, saying that, this is what we have to do. We have to have legal immigration and a lot more because we don't have the birth rate.
Right.
But we would get flack on that too.
Yep.
Trump never said that, and then we've had to play the actual audio cut of Trump saying it.
That we want people to come here legally because we're going to be expanding the economy in a big, big way. And, if you want to call it comprehensive immigration reform, whatever it's going to be, I don't think you would. I think the amnesty thing is off the table right now.
Oh yeah,
that's not going to be discussed.
No.
But then again, it gets to so the reform would be really the visa reform.
Yes,
that's the only. I think that's the only room. And I don't know how much right now politically you can get done on that. It may be a minute. It may be a bit before Americans are ready to talk about that.
Well, all the polling, I haven't seen any recent polling like in 6 months, but almost all the polling over the last 10 years says Americans are not for more legal immigration. And part of it we have said is because of the illegal immigration. Like, no, we need to stop it. Now, they may change. And if you have somebody like Trump who was he doesn't promote it all the time, but if he promoted it all the time and the Republicans picked it up, but right now is not the time because the public isn't there.
Right.
But that's what Trump believes. And so I just find it interesting that when we bring that up, we get flack. And it goes back to earlier this week when a guy was angry. You guys keep telling us what Trump is saying. Well, yeah. Well, we're not interested. But you're pro-Trump.
Yeah, it's our job to cover it.
You don't want to. You're pro-Trump, and you don't want to hear what he has to say. That was bizarre earlier this week. That was just totally bizarre. I was like, wow. It's like I don't get it. We don't practice political idolatry. We're conservative libertarian, as we've said before, with probably more libertarian. And there are things about, Republican candidates that we like. I didn't include Democrats because I don't agree with anything that they believe right now.
No.
There's not anything.
No.
I look and go, is there one idea?
No.
But with Republicans, most Republicans, probably we agree 60 to 70%. Trump, probably 80. But we're not cheerleaders. We'll tell you when he does something, when we believe he's doing something that we believe is good and promotes freedom and liberty and and free markets, except when you have a country, for example, like China, that's involved in totally unfair trading practices and actual cheating.
Yeah.
And the cheating comes with stealing intellectual property rights and things like that. But, Trump, for example, I love this last night from Trump. Ready for this? We got time?
All right.
I'm going to play this last. I just love this. I wish he would make more speeches I wish he would make more inspirational speeches. We always go back. Remember the 4th of July speech in his first term? And we said he's got to do more of that.
Yep.
You just can't be complaining.
Yeah.
About the opposition.
Right.
And that gets the most press. But when he's out like something like this has gotten a lot of press. And even Rapid Response 47 posted this one because this is something you want a president to be uplifting.
Yeah, right.
And this is definitely uplifting.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny, make their own luck, and determine their own fate despite the odds, despite all odds. That's what happens. They're given a little chance in many cases, very little chance of success, and they become the most successful people in the world. Whether you were born rich or poor, black or white, male or female in America, anyone can be a winner, and our whole country will be cheering you on, and I'll be at the front of the line cheering you on, especially because you come from this incredible university.
That's the kind of thing you need to give that's the kind of speech, and including these kind of things, you need to give at commencement.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
At graduation, commencement ceremonies.
Right.
That was just great. I love it.
Remember the one that Obama gave? Basically telling the graduates, don't go getting all these computers and whatnot, because, you'll find out stuff. Google is bad. We're going to shut them down. It's not good. Not good. Don't go getting all these answers.
Well,
you didn't get an education here, and you shouldn't get one when you leave here.
I got that the other day again. You're on your phone all the time. And I'm like, well, would you, if I was reading newspapers and news magazines all the time like I was 30 years ago, would you criticize me for that?
Yes, especially while you're driving.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And also,
if I store them, they can be a fire hazard.
Well, I would deem you a collector because
are
they even printing newspapers anymore?
Well, that was my. But and the point is, it's where you get information from.
Yeah,
and there's nothing bad with information, unless you're a liberal.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, it looks like the Department of Justice is making some moves, Eric. The Justice Department has filed lawsuits against 4 Democrat-led states, Hawaii, Michigan, New York, and Vermont, over what it calls unconstitutional climate policies that threaten U.S. energy independence and national security. The move follows President Trump's executive order protecting American energy from state overreach, directing federal action against state laws that burden domestic energy development. These laws hurt the American people and national security. Again, though, everything is an executive order.
Yeah.
When is Congress going to start passing some of these things and coming out with laws to back it all up? That's one of the questions here, because executive orders means it gets you through to the next administration. If the next administration is Democrat, it all gets reversed again.
Right.
You need to make it tougher, and you need to make it so legislation would have to be passed, because if the Republicans pass this legislation, this is where they need to promote This is, again, 97.3. I saw that number now.
Yeah.
It's not 80-20 anymore.
Exactly.
It's 97.3.
Yeah.
I just like that one.
Exactly.
That you pass it, you promote it, and you make it harder for Democrats, if they get in power, to go back the other direction.
Right.
And so Trump is right for doing all this, but it doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't mean as much as it could. It does mean it does mean that you've put a pause on all this and reversed it for a while.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's good.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason that I put him in, or that I put him in. That's the reason that I voted for him again for a third time.
We're not oligarchs.
Right. I'm not an oligarch.
I have better things to spend my money on.
I put him in. It's a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
That's why I voted for him for a third time. And so to put a stop to all this stuff that's happening, and I hope that the lawsuits are successful based on current law. But I still think that you need Congress to be stronger. I still think this whole reconciliation stuff is gonna be a mess. It's a mess now.
Yeah. It's not looking good.
Yes, I don't think that there is really the interest, as there should be, with Republicans to want to do any type of significant cuts. You know, DOGE, for example, yesterday, we'll have some of the audio. Great stuff where they talked about modernizing, the Treasury Department, getting the old computers out.
Right, yeah.
Demanding receipts for any money that's being spent. All great stuff, but we'll have that coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hi, everybody. How you doing? And no audio yet because my computer has frozen on me. I was ready to play it. I'm like,
shocked.
It's not working. It's not working.
Yeah,
Hang
I'm
on here.
shocked.
What's going on? Take two here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's working.
Okay.
We were talking about the whole thing with DOGE, and you had Fox News, Jessie Waters get together with all the people from DOGE, and we've talked over the last couple of weeks and said, when it comes to the amount that they were claiming that they could save, when they initially came out and said, we believe that waste and inefficiency is $2 trillion. And we said, don't think so.
Right.
Then they went to $1 trillion. And then, that would have been for 2026. And then they came up with $150 billion. And then finally $160 billion is what they can save. And we've always said, if they could cut the budget $100 billion, that would be unbelievable if you could do that. But we said you don't have $2 trillion because we went through line by line what's in the budget.
Right.
And we said, do Republicans really want to cut? Now the question is, because did you tell me Trump? I didn't hear this. You told me Trump yesterday said there's 150. He wants to see those cuts in the budget.
Yeah, I think it was actually, I think the number was 163.
Yeah. Well, that would be good because if Trump gets on board for that, but that means an overall cut in the budget, not just you make these cuts in the budget and then spend elsewhere. Right. And so, and I do think one of the things that DOGE did that was good, whether it's a Treasury Department going in and updating it, the IRS, and going, my God, you people are using paper files. You have a cave. You're not using modern technology that could really make it. Because remember, Department of Government Efficiency is also about making the departments more efficient. And which means if you make it more efficient, it's better for the end consumer, who is the taxpayer.
Wall Street Journal, they're promoting this as an exclusive. I mean, I would think everybody would have this story. Trump to propose slashing $163 billion in government programs and budget blueprint. The president's budget wish list would cut health research, climate, and education programs. That was posted at 9:22 Eastern at the Wall Street Journal.
Right. And for all of us who have been worried about it for years, our point has been, are you going to have those cuts? And will those cuts, is that going to be a cut to the total budget? Or are we still, well, we've cut that, but we're spending over here.
We're using it to pay for this. Yeah. Right.
Because one of the things is, I think what Trump is talking about is not that we actually cut the budget, but that $163 billion matches what all of his tax cuts will cover, all of his tax cuts. And so it doesn't actually cut the actual budget. It makes it so you even out the tax cuts with the new spending.
Right.
Or the lack of revenue.
Right.
So I won't call it new spending, the lack of revenue at that point. It's a start. But I want to go here. This is part of the DOGE.
By the way, to interject here on that last point, the administration from the Wall Street Journal, the administration said that represents a 22.6% cut from projected spending in fiscal 2025, which ends September 30th. It wasn't clear how the administration calculated that coverage. Again, that's the Wall Street Journal. So,
okay,
we'll look at it when it comes to, this is the skinny budget approach, which you and I, doing this for as many years as we have, you know what that means. Let's see what Congress can get.
Right, but what I get out of that is that matches roughly the $1.5 trillion over that period of the 10 years that would pay for the tax cuts.
Right. It certainly matches it,
yeah. That's what I believe it is. So they're saying it's a 22% cut, but then you will have 22%, they believe, less revenue, which will match it, which matches it up. By the way, this argument coming from Republicans, don't sit there and say, well, wait a minute, taxes are supposed to increase. I'm just telling you what the Republicans are saying, how they're doing, how they're doing it, and whether they've gotten to the end of the Laffer curve.
Yeah, I don't expect them to actually cut.
But here is DOGE yesterday, Jessie Waters with the people from DOGE, just talking about some of the things that they actually did. Here we go.
So actually, a lot of great work at the Treasury this week. One of the crazy things with regards to the Treasury is that when a payment is made, and the computers at the Treasury actually pay about $5 trillion per year, like crazy amounts, there was formerly not a budget code on there. So if a payment was made, you didn't know actually what it was for. It could have been for anything. Yeah. There was a $4 billion COVID fund in the Department of Education, and there was no receipts required, so people could just draw down on it. And when people looked into it, this wasn't us, this was before us, they found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties, rent out stadiums, et cetera. And so the one change that DOGE made with the Department of Education is we had the simple requirement that if you draw down money, you must first upload a receipt. That was the only change that was made. You must upload your receipt. And upon doing so, nobody drew down any money anymore.
Yes, but we didn't say that we'd check the receipt. You could send a fake receipt. You could send a picture of your dog. Anything. But as soon as we asked for anything at all, suddenly the requests were like, oh, we don't need it anymore. Huh, that's interesting.
They were renting Caesar's Palace.
Yes, they were like basically partying on the taxpayer money.
Stadiums.
Yes.
Leasing stadiums. For what?
For parties, basically.
For parties?
Yes.
That's a big party.
It's a big party.
You'd think if you were stealing, you'd start small.
They do start small. But then what happens is over the years, so generally the fraud starts out small and they try to hide it. But then year after year, if nobody stops the fraud, it gets more and more brazen. And every year it gets bigger until they're literally renting out stadiums. What's
$1 million to rent out a stadium?
Fraud in flagrante delicto.
Okay, what has to happen now? Because they've said this is going to continue. DOGE is going to continue,
Mhm.
which it should continue.
Sure.
Now, I believe Congress should take it over. This should become a department that Congress has a couple times a year, telling them where the way, and not Elon Musk, but the actual people doing it like that. I don't know who the gentleman was who was next to Elon Musk talking about it. There were two different other gentlemen talking, because when you listen to that, there's no politics involved in that.
Right.
That's waste and inefficiency, and you win over every single independent. The other thing they need to do is say, well, what stadium was this and when was this held? You need to be specific on these things to show the American people where the waste and inefficiency
We want the receipts.
Is. Now, there's two things. There's Congress spending the money, but there's also the importance of having an agency like DOGE in there constantly going through to audit and saying we can do this better and do this better.
Yeah.
And then report to Congress a couple times a year on it, in the public.
Yeah, right.
In the public to do it. If you wonder why think about this. Why are the Democrats going crazy over this? Why are they like, well, when we get back in power, that Elon Musk, we're going to get him. For what? For what? The oligarchy, and they're all, what does it mean, the oligarchy? What does that even mean?
They know full well that he is, and Michael Schellenberger did some on U.S. aid. He did some research and found so many things where the Democrats were using money politically in very scary ways.
Yep.
So hiding this money, being able to use this money in ways that basically give their party more power was something that has been going on for years. About 24 hours ago, I was convinced they were shutting the door on DOGE with the cabinet meeting the other day, and he was basically saying his goodbyes, and he's heading back to Tesla and that kind of thing. I thought, well, clearly the message is, we'll see you guys with a report on July 4th of next year. Well, I'm glad that it's not going away. It shouldn't ever go away. In fact, it should have been in place a long time ago.
Yeah, you're right. It should have always been there.
That's right. What the hell's wrong with our founding fathers?
Exactly.
So anyway, I look forward to your email. But but that's what we have been saying since the beginning. How have we not been doing this all along? And it should never go away.
And when you see the antiquated systems, somebody needs to point it out. And if you've seen any of these DOGE people, and you've only seen them on Fox,
yeah.
Did CNN do it? CNN may be willing to do it now, but you don't have any of the other networks sitting down with all these people. Like there was a panel of people talking to them. 60 Minutes, where are you?
Right.
You want credibility?
Right.
Bring these people on and don't edit it.
Now, I would say do what we just did, and that is we want to see the receipts. I mean, if you're doing this, show your work. Show what stadium was it? Right. That's what I would expect on a long-form sit-down with truly investigative journalism if you're going to do that. And I don't think Elon is lying. But get into the weeds on that.
Yeah.
Because it gets more and more ridiculous as you do, and it shows why DOGE should be in place forever.
And I want to know in what administration it was done and who did it.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming they're referring to the Biden administration for the stadiums and stuff, because that would be the most recent.
Right.
But no, I want it. The American people want to know. Why? Because if this is out there and you see this, independents and Democrats will even say, okay, well, that's ridiculous. That's you'll be able to. That's how you slowly peel people off, is not just by saying these things happen, but then be specific and say, on this date, this stadium was rented for this party, and it was done by this department and this department head, and here are the people that we know who were there.
Right.
And who were part of that department that held it. And then the press should be going to those people and saying, why did you hold a party like this and take this money? Well, because it was there, and we viewed the $4 billion. This would be the best statement ever. We viewed the $4 billion as just petty cash to use as we want,
right?
And then have the American public hear something like that being said.
Right.
Well, it was there and available to us with no auditing. No, with no auditing. Well, we're not in charge of that. And then the American public will sit there and look and go, well, that's ridiculous. That can't happen. It has to be something that's long-term, and I hope they can find more waste and inefficiency, but you don't have to oversell. And Congress has to. The Republicans in Congress, because there's no chance Democrats will, the Republicans in Congress have to move forward and promote the fact that if DOGE is making these cuts and the president wants the cuts, we actually have to cut the overall budget.
Right.
And I haven't heard that yet, except from Chip Roy.
Right. And Chip Roy, as we said the other day, Chip Roy should have been surrounded by a number of GOPers when he's talking to the media. Well, you should be in front of a podium, in fact, with your GOP colleagues. And right now it seems like he stands alone. We know there's a few others, but unfortunately it's just a few. The GOP needs to get this done.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Coming up on the top of the hour. Well, the Republicans talking reconciliation and whether they can actually cut the budget or not.
Yeah.
Actually balance well, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Can they? They're not going to balance it.
No.
Can they reduce the yearly deficit would be the question, correct?
Yeah, right. At all. Even $1.
The president said a ton of good things yesterday. One of them was where he put out on X, alert, all purchases of Iranian oil or petrochemical products must stop now. Any country or person who buys any amount of oil or petrochemicals from Iran will be subject to immediately secondary sanctions. They will not be allowed to do business with the United States in any way, shape, or form. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
That's very good.
Yep. Choke them
Very
out.
good.
Absolutely.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Anything going on this weekend at all? I mean, any?
I don't know.
Is it the Kentucky Derby this weekend?
Is it?
Is it this weekend?
Oh,
it shows you how much attention I'm paying to sport, but paying attention to sports, which I'm not.
I don't know. I think it is, right?
Who knows?
I don't know. I'm an honorary Kentucky colonel.
Oh, that's
which
right.
means I am charged with absolutely nothing. I have no duties whatsoever. But I should know these things. Actually, I don't bet on horses.
There's no benefits, privileges, or honors, that you get by being an official Kentucky colonel?
I get to tell everybody. I get the honorary. I'll tell you this: the honorary Kentucky lieutenants have to salute me. I was hoping I'd get fried chicken out of the deal.
You
but
were
it's nothing.
saluted. Yeah, it's Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't bet on horses, so.
I did one time.
Yeah.
My best friend whose grandfather owned a bar and he was a bookie. And is one of my best friends, his grandfather was a bookie. His father was a cop.
Yeah.
Now, his grandfather, though, didn't break legs. People paid.
Yeah.
But he had a bar. And one time we all went to the horse races.
Mm-hmm.
And I lasted about 5 minutes, and I was done. And so we followed his grandfather, who was the bookie, who won like $800. We followed him everywhere because he was buying the drinks.
My brother and I went out to Ruidoso for a trip one time, and then we stopped over at the Ruidoso Downs and watched the horses run. And I think either he did or I can't remember if I did. I probably did. Put a few dollars down, and I mean like $3. I have no idea what I'm doing. Jerry Seinfeld, I just heard it the other day, has a great bit on horse racing. And he talks about, he goes, when you're a comedian, you're on the road, you got to find things to do during the day.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do something. So we all went to the horse track in this one town. And he goes, I got to wonder what the horse is thinking. The horses are thinking, the gate goes and they're like, run, 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 run. They're not thinking, I'm beating you, I'm faster than you are. It's just run, 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 run. And then they get to the back. They get back to the, at the end, they get done with the race. And it's, all right, time for a bag of oats. That's what the horse is thinking. And then, the horse is also thinking, wait a minute. We ran all that time to get back to where we started. We could have just stayed here and come in first.
They're horses.
They're horses. Yeah. So I don't know. I have a bandmate of mine, former bandmate of mine, not Steven Tyler.
A real in his non-delusional world.
When I was actually in a band, the band I was actually in, his family has been involved in raising horses for a long time, and he lives out there, and he will host friends and sometimes celebrities. One time, John Boehner. We don't like messing.
I remember that.
Yeah, the picture of I
remember that picture. Yeah.
But they, so he's involved and we'll be going to it. It's a big deal. When I go to Louisville for the truck show in March every year, Mid-America Truck Show, it is the countdown's always on, right? You'll see it everywhere. So many days, whatever the count is, depending on when the truck show is, until Derby. I mean, it's everything, Mm-hmm. There are really two big things. Basketball, Derby. I mean, you go into in March when we go in, I mean, it's there's everything is centered around the NCAA playoffs and then the countdown to Derby. Of course, the trucking show is a big deal too for us, but in Kentucky, in Louisville, it's all about either basketball or the Derby.
I'm fascinated by the horse racing and how, over the years it is, even though people really don't pay attention to it,
mm-hmm.
They don't pay attention to what's going on until the Kentucky Derby comes, and then whoever wins the Derby It's like, okay, do they have a chance at the Triple Crown?
Right.
And then if they get close to that, the public is really paying attention. But for me, growing up, Secretariat winning was just, that was some of the most incredible. We didn't have computers at the time or anything like that, but the news media was dominated on Secretariat. And the movie of Secretariat that came out a couple of years ago with Diane Lane, that was a great movie. It really was. I love that movie. And, when you look back at, what is it, the other horse movie that came out? Seabiscuit. I mean, what a great movie.
I remember movies with the word biscuit in the title every time. It's got biscuit in the title. I'm in.
Well, but the interesting thing is, if you go back, because we always look at Hollywood and movies, we say, okay, it has to be overhyped.
Right.
Go actually watch the race on YouTube.
Yeah.
Go watch Secretariat.
Yeah.
Win. A lot of people probably never have. You can go and watch Secretariat. You can watch Seabiscuit. That's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And there is, the intensity of a sport that we don't pay attention to 95% of the year. And all of a sudden, if there's a great horse, we pay attention. And, you and I living in Texas, and there's a lot of cowboys and cowgirls. I know a young woman who is a barrel racer. And
I have some of those in my family.
Yeah, she's really, really good. And she has worked 3 jobs just to do the barrel racing.
Yeah.
And she's just addicted to it. And I saw a video the other day of her. I've never actually seen her do it. I'm going to guess she's probably 28, 29 years old now. But I saw a video she posted, and I went, oh, boy. And I was impressed. I went, you could die doing that.
Yeah, wow.
It's like,
no,
wow.
it's crazy. The barrel racing is insane. Taylor Sheridan is a real cowboy.
Yeah.
And in terms of like cutting horses and everything else, you actually see him ride on some of the episodes of Yellowstone. You see him do his thing. But, he's grown up doing it.
They're his horses.
Yeah, they're all his.
They're all his horses.
And he has grown up. He grew up on a ranch. He owns a big ranch now, the 4 Sixes in Texas. He's the real deal. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to that. By the way, another great horse movie. It's called Dream Horse. It goes back a few years. It's about a Welsh village that buys a racehorse. And it's just a great little movie. You need to see it. Dream Horse, it's probably streaming anywhere. I don't know where I can't remember where we watched it. Probably on Amazon. It might be on Netflix. I don't know. Dream Horse is it's a good movie. It's just a good movie.
Dream Horse. There was another movie that I watched about, and I think it was from a stable in California. And it's in the last 20 years. And 50 to 1.
Oh.
That's the movie.
Oh.
2014. It came. Wow, it was pretty close. 50 to 1. And it's pretty good because those are the couple of guys that Mind That Bird. They came out of nowhere to win the 2009 Kentucky Derby. And that movie, when I saw it, it doesn't have any like superstars in it. So it's not a grade A movie. It may be a B+ movie or an A-.
Yeah.
And you looked at it and you go, okay, it's not a Hollywood movie where they put $100 million into it.
Right.
But the story itself, knowing the story itself, kept me there. Kept me watching it.
Yeah.
And the payoff was there at the end because they're going to win.
Coming up May 17th will mark 150 years of the first Kentucky Derby. May 17th, 1875. Wow. So they've been doing it for a minute. But who, I mean, for us, it always goes back, okay, how did this start? You know what we should do with these horses? Race them. Because horses were about work. They were about, sometimes they were about war, transportation. So somewhere along the way, somebody said, hey, I got an idea. I bet or just plain old ego, I bet my horse is faster than yours. And there you have it, right?
Horse racing occurred in ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Babylon, Syria, Arabia, and Egypt.
Yeah.
I guess why not, right?
Well, I mean, you got to put on some. That's the entertainment, right? That's it. You're going to get. They made a movie about Ben-Hur, chariot races.
No,
but the chariot races were really about the horse.
Yeah.
Unless they were illegal powered chariots. That's. Again, that's the showbiz side of it. All right, a crowd will watch this. They'll show up to watch this. So there you have it. I saw something the other day on bullfighting. That's not so much bullfighting as it is bull dodging. Bull running from. I heard a comedian. Hey, go to Spain with me. We'll do the running with the bulls. No. That's running from the bulls.
I remember before I ever saw bull riding, and they were like, you had the animal rights activists. This is horrible. This is horrible. This is horrible.
Yeah.
And I saw only for about 10 minutes. I went at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo when they had the bull riding. I went, you're not hurting the bull. You're hurting it. There should be human rights activists out there.
I can attest to that. I've been on a bull.
For the human beings being hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, those bulls are so, I couldn't believe how big they were.
Well, it's unbelievable. If you've never actually seen a bull up close. It's holy cow intimidating. Eddie Robinson, my buddy, convinced me because he was a bull rider. And then we got on one. And it was supposed to be, this is the old bull. It's not going to do much. People ask me, did you last 8 seconds? Yes, once I got on the ground.
So you actually did it?
No, I did it. I got on a bull. Yeah.
Was it like a bull a day from Social Security, collecting Social Security, or?
Well, again, it was
Elon Musk stopped any bulls from collecting Social Security.
It was an older. He told me it was an older bull. Knowing Eddie, that could have been a joke, a prank. Ha ha, very funny. But the tying of the hands, the leaning back. We went through, and I trained on a barrel. You train on a barrel that has these 4 cables, tied in each, 4 different directions. And it's just so you can get used to sitting on something that's going to move not the way you want it to move. Well, the barrel thing didn't do me any good at all. This is a massive creature. And, we have family and ranching and everything else. I've been up close to bulls, but when I was very young, but when I don't know why I decided to do it. There was nobody there watching me. I wasn't trying to show off to anybody. It was Eddie and some other cowboys, and that was it. And I wasn't trying to, I wasn't even going to, I didn't even think, if I can do this, I'll keep doing it and get into bull riding. I wasn't going to rodeo. I can't tell you why I did it.
Peer pressure?
No, I just thought
you wanted to do that?
It was something that I wanted to do.
I would take a pass on that.
I would now. Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, even when I was young, I go, I don't think so. I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Yeah. Well, the ground comes up to your face very quickly. Yes. That's all I saw is, wow, why is the earth coming up to my head?
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So, can you name one horse in the Kentucky Derby?
Nope.
Neither can I.
Nope. No, it is fascinating, the industry, and I haven't messaged or spoken with my former bandmate Kenny in a while. He sent me some pictures, again over the years, but I would love to know more about raising horses, breeding horses, that kind of thing. That's fascinating. Having been indirectly involved and sometimes directly involved in ranching, and which includes bulls, by the way, you kind of need those. But you look at it as I look at it as an industry. I mean, it's especially with ranching in terms of cattle and everything else, the beef industry, but with horses, it's a big money game, especially when you're talking about raising horses that are going to race and that kind of thing. I would love to look more into the horse breeding industry and learn more about it. Fascinating.
They live the life. They walk the walk. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. How times have changed when you think about it over the last... Obamacare was passed when? 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2010. How things have changed in 15 years. Yeah, because it was March of 2010.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So how times have changed. Here's here's Chip Roy. Okay, Representative Chip Roy.
All right.
Talking about the whole reconciliation bill and Republicans promising not to cut anything out of Medicaid. All right, here we go.
Now, I've got a bunch of my colleagues, to the point of the gentleman from Arizona, running around saying, well, we can't touch Medicaid. Well, why can't we? Medicaid was expanded under Obamacare, which we all opposed. And the Medicaid expansion was a big reason why we opposed it. So why can we now not demand reforms to the broken pieces of Obamacare that expanded Medicaid such that we are giving 90% federal match to the able-bodied, the people who are not the most vulnerable, compared to the vulnerable population who only get 50 to 60 to 70%. Like, why would we do that? Why would we give more to Medicaid recipients than Medicare recipients, which we often do? Why would we continue to allow states like California and other states to game the system to get federal dollars sent back in a money laundering scheme, as has been reported widely by the Wall Street Journal and others? They're openly and knowingly doing it. Why wouldn't we fix that? Why wouldn't we apply eligibility rules and work requirements combined with lowering that abusive federal match rate, subsidizing blue states to game the system when they're using federal borrowed money to prop up their weak state budget? Why wouldn't we fix that? I don't have a single constituent I know who thinks we ought to continue doing that. And even more so, let me see this chart. My colleagues that are running around and say, well, they give into these arguments that we're somehow cutting Medicaid. That's a lie.
And he brings out the chart that Medicaid spending goes up 25% under the GOP plan. But his point was, if we can't cut out the stuff like Obamacare, and he mentioned, I think this is, this is the other one that he had, that he talked about yesterday that I want to play.
Part of the Budget Control Act, which basically gives us the ability to reconcile current policies with what we're dealing with respect to our spending, debt, deficits, right? We have to make that all add up, and we're supposed to do that in a way that would yield deficit neutrality or deficit reduction. That's the general purpose of why we have reconciliation. Reconciliation, though, because there is a 60-vote threshold in the Senate, and that means certain policies that the majority wants to get in place in the House and the Senate, if they control both chambers, often hit resistance by the minority party in the Senate, that then reconciliation is used to end run what we call the filibuster, even though it's really just a 60-vote threshold, end run that in order to get policy, even though we're supposedly not doing policy on reconciliation. That is how stupid your Congress is, America. That's how you're developing policy, through a bunch of arcane procedures, some of which are great and designed to have cooling effects, some of which are really stupid. But what we're doing is trying to find every which way possible to avoid accountability and responsibility, and that is, as I've been putting it around here to reporters and getting reported out, to do basic math. Because that is, in fact, our obligation, is to do basic math. And unfortunately, a whole bunch of my colleagues on the Democrat side of the aisle and a whole bunch of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle refuse to do basic math. They want to say that through magic fairy dust and through money trees, they can just wish away the reality that we're going to have a certain amount of inflows and a certain amount of outflows every year. And you want to know why we're $37 trillion in debt, or soon to be? That's why. Now, we're having a big debate, America, on what we should do in this so-called reconciliation process. We are going to have tax policy in there that's going to affect our tax revenues to the government, but more importantly, affect the tax bill you receive. Let me stipulate for the record, when I am attacked a lot in the coming weeks for saying allegedly I want to have tax cuts go up or have taxes go up, I am emphatically for cutting taxes. I would like to zero out the tax code, eliminate the income tax, get rid of the IRS. I would like to do all of those things, and I have legislation to do it. And I will vote for tax cuts, but I refuse to ignore math. If you're going to do a certain amount of tax cuts, which will create a certain amount of economic growth, yes, you still have to model how much revenue will come into the Treasury versus how much you're spending. Because my Republican colleagues love to spend. They campaign on tax cuts. They deliver on most of the tax cuts. They campaign on balancing the budget and cutting spending and never do it. Ever. In the history of ever, with the possible exception of the late 1990s, when the Gingrich Republicans combined with Clinton and, by the way, a dot-com economic explosion to deliver us a balanced budget. And they did it through welfare reform and through some spending constraint. And that is the only time in modern history when we've done it.
Yeah, he also talked about the Inflation Reduction Act. Exactly what we have said. Because, you know, you and I not being in Congress and not being privy to the conversations going on, we have said, well, why do they want to keep expanding Obamacare?
Right.
You know, and as he said, he goes, there are people on Medicaid that get more coverage than people in Medicare.
Right.
That actually paid in their entire life. He talked about the able-bodied males out there. Why aren't we screaming to stop all of this and actually have, you know, a reduction in Medicaid?
Right.
Not a 25% growth, because what you're saying is, well, instead of a 35% growth, we're going to have 25% growth.
And we're going to call that a cut.
Yeah.
That's not a cut.
And when you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, he goes, we're not doing anything on the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's where you've got what, $900 billion, $900 billion going to all the climate change stuff for Biden. Well, get it out.
Yep.
And his complaint, I thought that was the audio. That wasn't the audio where he said that. But it was like, what are we doing?
Right.
Why do we wish to keep funding what Biden wanted?
Well, and that's it. Because I need to know, are we going to actually cut anything? Is there the will to cut anything? You know, the president's skinny budget, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, $163 billion in cuts to pay for something else.
Yeah, that's not overall. We want the entire budget cut. If you could just make the entire budget even from the year before.
Like I said, $1, cut it by $1.
Cut it, yeah.
That would be a miracle. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
Okay.
Who have we heard from? There's only a few on Capitol Hill. Fiscal conservatives. Chip Roy recently has been the loudest.
Yeah. In the last couple of weeks, I haven't heard anybody but Chip Roy.
I haven't.
No one.
Because we said this with the whole CR garbage. Okay, fine. Now let's get to reconciliation.
Well, he did say that. He said exactly what we thought, because we said, okay, why do the conservatives, the 3 or 4 or 5 of them that are in Congress right now, why did they say, okay, we'll pass the continuing resolution? Why did they say, okay, the framework budget will pass?
Right.
And Chip Roy told us when we played the audio yesterday, he said, because when they were coming around and talking about we're going to cut $1.5 trillion, well, then we knew we were going to get some cuts. Nobody's talking about the $1.5 trillion in cuts. Now it's the president talking about the $160 billion in basically that would match the DOGE cuts, which would be to pay for the tax cuts. So we still don't have any overall cuts.
Right.
And that's what Chip Roy was saying. They were implying to us or telling us we'll get to it in reconciliation. He's like, it's not there.
No. And I don't, again.
Well, if you're not going to do it now, if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to do it now with all the publicity for DOGE and DOGE marketing it correctly like Fox did last night, and they should be out elsewhere too, doing town hall meetings, whatever, because you can get on News Nation and you can get, not that they have a huge audience, but still it's not about being on those networks. It's about the viral stuff that comes off of it. That then goes online. That's what you want to do,
right? And
you could do a whole DOGE thing on X.
Sure. They probably know the guy that owns X.
They probably do. But you make it all go viral. So you ask MSNBC, we want to come on, and you you see if they actually wish to talk about it. But you don't bring on the politicians. You bring on those involved in it, the people actually doing the work, who will say, I'm not a politician. We want to cut waste and inefficiency. And if they don't cover it correctly, you've still got something viral to go with.
Right. Well, again, we've been saying if you can't do this now with the advent of DOGE, you'll never be able to get it done. With all of the talk surrounding DOGE, look, you made liberals so mad they started burning Teslas. You made liberals so mad when you talked about spending cuts, they were burning EVs. Well, that's when you know you're doing the right thing. That's when you know you're on the right point and on the right path.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Somebody had yesterday on X, well, the whole climate change thing is completely over.
Oh, that's over, yeah.
When Neil Young is singing to get rid of the most popular EV out there.
Exactly.
You know it's over at that point.
Exactly.
Did you see the mocking of the lyrics of the song yesterday? I mean, it was just mocked like
it's
crazy.
Horrible. Yeah, I mean, it's really bad. It's so bad, I thought it was you making it up.
When I was reading the lyrics, if you weren't here yesterday, I started reading the lyrics and trying to do the Neil Young voice, which I was horrible at. And I said, the real lyrics. No, they're not. No, you're just making it up. I'm like, no, those are the real lyrics of the song. You're a fascist if you have a Tesla. Blah, blah.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it was so bad. It was worse than Hey, Hey, My, Rock and Roll Will Never Die.
Neil, go to some AI website, have the AI write it for you.
Or
if you're going to be lazy about it.
Or go find some of that 60s acid, get that mind moving to get the lyrics going.
Some weed, anything. Fresh air, go take a walk.
Yes, man.
Anything to get the juices flowing. Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it's just like he rambled into his phone, right? While he's recording it. He just rambled into his phone. Okay, here are the lyrics. Man, that guy, Elon Musk, he's such a fascist. If you drive a Tesla, you're a fascist. He's just ranting.
No. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Well, because our show ends in an hour, as you all know. And when that is done, well, we've recorded the entire show and then we put it on our app. And it's that simple. So if you only catch an hour of the show or 2 hours of the show or 4 hours of the show and there's 5 hours of the show, you can get whatever hour you want.
Let's say you only catch 3 hours and 36 minutes of the show. Not a problem. Let's say you catch 2 minutes of the show. Still not a problem. It's always here. We're here for you. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
We're here for you.
Yeah. We haven't abandoned you.
No, we haven't.
And if for some reason you cannot listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, we stream the show live on our Red Eye Radio app all 5 hours.
Yep.
We certainly do.
We're here for you.
Coming up, Title IX, the radical transgender movement, Title IX.
Yeah.
And the Department of Justice looking at an education chief who called it inaccurate to say there are only boys and girls.
Okay.
Here's the insanity again.
Yep.